right. If you are watching this video, then you are probably someone who is struggling with quitting the gas. You're struggling with getting control over your addiction. You've probably been smoking for a long time and you told yourself that you're going to quit how many times now? Probably like 4 or 5 times. But every single time you told yourself you're going to quit, you end up going back to the gas. You end up going back to the blunt. You just say, oh, maybe I'll just do it on the weekends. And what happens? You go on the weekend, you smoke on the weekend, and then it just becomes a habit again. It kind of like slowly creeps up on you, just like an assassin, just like Assassin's Creed or like Naruto, like a ninja. It ends up just creeping back up on you, and then boom, you have a full-blown addiction again. And the reason why that happens is actually it's pretty easy to kind of like discern. The reason why that happens is because of the fact that every single person, and when I say every single person, I mean every single person, 100% of people that say that they're gonna quit smoking weed, they end up saying that, but they end up smoking again. They end up smoking again. 100% of people. There's no exception to this rule. How many people do you know, and even yourself, how many people do you know who said, yeah, I'm gonna quit smoking, I'm gonna take a tea break, I'm gonna take a tolerance break. Yeah, I think I'm done with weed. And then maybe about a few months later, they're like, yeah, whatever. It's the weekend. Oh, I'm at a party. Yeah, I might as well. And then what happens? They break the seal, and then they end up developing a full-blown addiction after just taking that one tump of the blunt. Every single person I know this happens to. And this happened to me. This happened to me for literally 5 years straight. 5 years straight, this happened to me. When did I think that I wanted to quit? So I had a mushrooms trip. Like I took mushrooms when I was 17. And if you guys don't know my story, then I'll tell you real quick. Like I was a person who was like severely addicted to weed. I was smoking 5 times a day. It was literally all I could do, all I could think about. I just wanted to smoke before I did anything, before I go to the movies, before I eat, before I go to the mall, before I socialize. I had to smoke. I was smoking during school, after school, before school, all that crazy type of stuff. I was severely addicted to weed. And then I took mushrooms, and one day I was like, oh shit, this is actually kind of screwing up my life, because it is, and it's screwing up your life, which is the reason why you're watching this video. You know for a fact it's screwing up your life. And once I had that mushroom trip and I kind of realized how bad weed was affecting me, I was like, oh shit, it's time for me to quit. So after I took the mushrooms, I quit for maybe about like 2 months. And then what happens? I smoked again once, and then boom, a full-blown addiction happened again. Now, I don't want to go over too much about how weed is actually destroying your life, because you guys probably already know this. You guys probably already know the fact that it literally fries your brain chemistry. It literally screws up your brain chemistry. It literally makes everything in your life kind of dull, because it screws up your dopamine receptors to the point where you can't even enjoy normal things anymore. It screws up your serotonin in your brain, because once you artificially induce a chemical in your brain, what happens? You're not able to produce that chemical naturally. So this is why your dopamine system is kind of messed up right now. This is why life isn't really enjoyable to you anymore without weed, because of the fact that your dopamine receptors are cooked. If you don't know what happens when you smoke weed, I'm just gonna go over this real quick. Let's say your dopamine is a chart like this. This is exactly what happens to your dopamine receptors when you smoke a bunch of weed. Your dopamine receptors is like this. It's at this level right here. It's at baseline. Let's say it's at baseline right now. You smoke weed, it kind of skyrockets up, and then it goes below the normal baseline. This is why you feel like shit whenever you smoke weed. You kind of have that come down phase. And this is that come down phase. But the thing that people don't realize is that dopamine, it goes below the natural baseline. So now your dopamine levels is down here below the natural baseline. Then what happens? You're like, oh, I feel like shit, I need to smoke again. And then what happens? You get your dopamine back up, and it goes down, and it goes down, and it goes down. It's a perpetual cycle of you kind of like trying to balance out your dopamine. And the reason why is because your brain literally can't produce the chemical dopamine, because of the fact that your dopamine levels are all the way down here. Because of the fact that you produce so much artificial dopamine from smoking weed that your brain can't naturally produce that thing anymore. It's exactly like steroids. If you take steroids, what happens? Your body stops producing testosterone, because of the fact that you're already getting artificial testosterone within your body, and your body says, oh shit, this is too much. Anyways, you guys know all this jargon. You guys know all this stuff. Like, if you don't know this, then you probably wouldn't be watching this video. But anyways, as I was saying, every single person who says that they're gonna smoke weed, or who says they're gonna quit weed, they end up smoking again eventually. It happens every single time. So this is the thing. I'm not a proponent of quitting weed. I'm really not. Because the thing is that I'll still smoke. Me, myself, I will still smoke. But I only smoke like twice a year. Maybe even like, I don't know, like once every couple of months. Like I really don't know how much I smoke because I don't even think about it. It's not on my mind at all. I don't crave weed. I don't have the urge to smoke or get high. I really don't have any urge at all. So that's why I literally only smoke about 2 or 3 times a year. Maybe only times on vacation where I'm at a place where weed is legal. Like, I don't know, I was in Spain recently and I took a tump of the blunt in Spain, just a couple of tumps, just with my boys who wanted to try it for the first time. And yeah, after that, I was fine. Like, I never got to the point again where I develop a full-blown addiction, which is what every single person does. I'm at the point where I literally have 100% control over my usage. 100% control. I never feel the urge to get high. I never feel the urge to smoke weed again. I don't feel the urge to like, oh man, I just wish I could be high right now. I never feel the urge. And this is the exact reason why I'm still able to hang out with my stoner friends. I'm still able to sit in a circle of multiple people smoking weed and say no. And the thing is, I'm not using willpower. I'm not like scratching the itch like a fucking crackhead, saying like, fuck man, oh, I wish I could tump the blunt right now, but I just can't. No, that doesn't happen to me at all. And people who end up actually quitting weed, or I wouldn't even say quitting because I'll go over this in a second, but quitting is easy. Quitting is easy. Getting full control over your weed addiction, that's not easy. But every single person who actually got full control over their addiction, they're the exact same way. The exact same way. Literally the exact same way. They don't feel the urge to smoke anymore. They're not clawing their freaking eyes out trying to stop themselves from smoking weed. No, you just naturally shift yourself into the mindset of someone who doesn't need weed at all. And I'll go over that. I'll go over that more in a second. I'll go over that more in a second. Let me just erase this board right now. Let me just erase this board right now. Now, this video is going to be about how to get full control over your addiction. It's not going to be about how to quit, because quitting and getting full control over your addiction, that is completely different. Because like what I said, quitting weed is easy. That is very easy. Because think about it. If you want to quit weed, you could literally just move to a country that weed is illegal at. You could move to a country where you don't have access to weed and live there for about 3 to 5 months. And yeah, there you go. You technically quit weed because you didn't have access to the weed. But the issue with quitting weed is what happens when you do have access to weed again. What happens when you find yourself in a circle where everyone's smoking a blunt, where you smell the weed and everyone's having a good time? You're gonna crack. You're gonna go back to the weed. If you move back to the country that you're from, where weed is legal at, and you have full access to to weed, there's dispensaries everywhere. You're running straight back to the dispensary every single time. I know people who've literally moved countries and they've stayed there for about 6 months and they had zero access to weed, and they come back and then what happens? They continuously start smoking again. They develop the bad habit again. They develop the addiction again. Why? That's because their brain is still primed to I guess you could say the mode or the caliber of a weed smoker, of a weed addict. Now, taking full control over your addiction, what it is, it's outgrowing weed. It's outgrowing that mental, I guess you could say, that mental framework of you actually needing weed, of you being addicted to weed. This is why when I say I do not feel the urge to smoke at all, I really mean it. That's because I'm not in the mental framework of someone who is an addict. I'm not in the mental framework of someone who is a weed smoker. And this isn't gonna be some like woo-woo bullshit, like some spiritual bullshit, like, oh, you need to manifest it. Oh, no, it's not gonna be any of that stuff. Trust me. I'm gonna explain a bit later how to exactly, like the exact process that I do to do this. But as I was saying, getting control over your addiction versus quitting weed like altogether, that's completely different. People who quit weed, they always end up going back to smoking whether they like it or not. Because everyone who says that they're gonna quit weed, they end up smoking again eventually. And once they end up smoking again eventually, it just takes one puff of the blunt to get a full-blown addiction again. It happens every single time. I've literally seen it with 100% of people that tell me that they're gonna quit smoking weed. And trust me, if you're a stoner, you know a lot of people who are addicted to weed because you're a stoner. Like, obviously those are your friends. And me, I'm a barber, so I cut like thousands of people's hair, and I've talked to hundreds of stoners who tell me their stories, who tell me like, oh, like I'm thinking of quitting weed. And a couple weeks later, what happens? Full-blown addiction happens again. So quitting weed is easy. If you get tossed in jail, if you get thrown in jail, you probably won't have access to weed. So technically you quit for about 6 months, but what happens after you leave jail? You're going straight back to the blunt. You're developing a full-blown addiction again. And why? It's because you are the same exact person that you were, except there is no weed there. You are the same exact person that you were when you were addicted to weed, except for the fact that there's no weed involved. Now that is very important. Keep that in mind. This is very, very important when it comes to what I'm going to be explaining here. The reason why you are addicted to weed is because you are in the mental framework of someone who is addicted to weed. Let me explain this. Let me just write this down. Now, okay, this is going to make this very easy for you guys. Let's say this is you. Let's say this is you, and then let's say this is, I don't know, Frank. Now, who is Frank? We all know a Frank. Every single one of us knows a Frank. Frank is someone who, he smokes weed on occasion. Like he's not really a stoner. He smokes weed on occasion. He'll kind of hang out with you and your boys, and then every time he sees weed, you'll be like, yeah, you know what, I'll smoke, you know. But he never really buys weed himself. He never really buys weed himself. He was never really a guy who to get really into weed like that. Whenever you guys are smoking, he'll take like a couple tumps of the blunts, and he never like pitches for the weed. He never buys weed, but he only smokes like sometimes, you know, like when you guys are in the circle, sometimes he would be like, nah, not today. Like I'm good. I don't even really want to smoke weed, you know, like today I'm good. We all know this person called Frank who is not a fucking fiend. This guy Frank, he's a person who has full control over his weed usage. But the thing is though, is that Frank, he was never addicted to weed at all within the first place. He was never an addict at all in the first place. So this person Frank, there's a difference between you and Frank. You, whenever you see weed, you can't deny it. You're like, oh fuck yeah, the blunt, yeah, let me take that blunt. But Frank, whenever he's presented a blunt in his face, whenever someone passes the blunt to him, he could say no. He could literally say no. He's like, nah, I'm good. I just don't feel like smoking today. But the thing is though, is that Frank, he's not clawing his eyes out to freaking to stop himself from grabbing the blunt. He doesn't give a fuck. Like he doesn't care. He genuinely does not care. He's probably thinking like, oh no, I have a finals tomorrow. I have an exam tomorrow. Like I don't need to smoke weed today. I have a freaking test tomorrow, or I have to study for my test. No, he does not care. And the reason why Frank is able to do that is because he's in the mental framework of someone who is not addicted to weed. You, on the other hand, you have a subconscious emotional attachment to weed. You have a subconscious emotional attachment to weed. Frank doesn't. You have everything within your brain and within your mind pulling you towards addiction, pulling you towards weed. Frank doesn't. So there's a complete difference between you and Frank. Frank is someone who doesn't have all these internal problems and internal struggles. You do. You have a bunch of internal struggles that is pulling you towards weed. And this is something that a lot of people don't really know, or a lot of people don't really like take into account when they look at their weed addiction. There is a reason why you are addicted to weed. You have a root. There is a root to the issue. And if you don't tackle the root, then what's going to happen? You're never going to tackle your addiction. You're always going to be running towards weed. A lot of people have subconscious emotional attachments towards weed. Frank doesn't. I know I 100% had a freaking subconscious emotional attachment to weed. Frank doesn't. He's able to smoke, but at the same time, he's not triggering those subconscious emotional attachments that he has to weed. So you, on the other hand, everything in your life and everything within your internal mind, within your internal state, is pulling you towards addiction. If you're addicted to weed, you probably have other issues within your life. Like you probably have other symptoms. You probably are addicted to other things too. Like you're probably addicted to watching freaking explicit content. You know what I'm saying? You probably have like an addictive personality. You're probably addicted to video games. Now, some people think that that is like a personality trait, which I guess you could say it is. Like having an addictive personality is a personality trait because it's called addictive personality. But the thing that people don't understand is that there's a reason why you even have that addictive personality in the first place. All it comes down to is programming. Let me say that again. All it comes down to is programming. Write that down. Don't mind my writing. It's been a minute. Like it's been a minute since I've been in school. You know what I'm saying? So my writing is not the best. But all this comes down to is programming. Your mind is programmed to be addicted to substances, not just weed, but your mind is addicted to be programmed to substances. Frank's mind, on the other hand, is not. Frank doesn't have those internal struggles or different traumas that he's dealing with and that sort of stuff that make him want to be addicted to substances. He has full control over his usage because he doesn't have any of these things pulling him towards the substances. Now, one thing that I will mention, I'm not going to go too deep into what your internal struggles are and that sort of stuff because everyone's going through something, you know what I'm saying? Everyone has stuff that they got to deal with. But I'm going to be telling you how to kind of like deal with these internal struggles and how to actually raise your caliber and raise your level to the point where you're at Frank's level. Because that's literally what it is. You guys just have different brains. That's literally all it is. You literally just have different brains and that's it. Now, let me go over what to actually do. This is how you actually get full control over your addiction. This is what took me 5 years. Literally, this is what took me 5 years to, what was I gonna say? I just lost my train of thought for some reason. But no, this is what took me 5 years to actually, what the hell? Damn, that's crazy. This is what took me 5 years to do. Yeah, this is what took me 5 years. It took me 5 years to do this, or it took me 5 years to figure this out. I might cut that out of the video. I don't even know why the hell I was tweaking like that. But yeah, this is what took me 5 years to learn. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm just gonna tell you guys real quick. So I have a free school community in the link in the description below, and it goes super into depth in all of this stuff. Right now it's free, and it's only gonna be free for the first 10 members. And the reason for that is because I'm just trying to have beta testers. I'm trying to have people who are gonna test out this program, and it goes into depth of all of this stuff, literally a complete blueprint of how to get full control over your weed addiction. Right now, I'm just gonna talk about a couple of aspects, but in the link in the description below, it's literally like a program that has full depth into what I'm going to be talking about. Like, so first 10 members are free. Right now, I'm not sure how many members there are, but there's not 10 so far. So yeah, the links in the description. Damn, I can't talk today. The link's in the description below. So check that out if you're actually serious about taking full control of your addiction. Now, the main thing that you need to realize when it comes to quitting weed is that weed is really just kind of like a bad habit. So with every bad habit, what do? We outgrow them. We outgrow bad habits. So what you need to do is you need to outgrow this habit. Because really think about it like this. There are certain bad habits that you probably did when you were younger. Like let's say you were a video gamer and you started raging every single time you died in a video game. Let's say you're playing Call of Duty or Fortnite. You'd forget to smack your desk like, you'd verbally get pissed off. You'd probably punch the air. But do you do that anymore? No, probably not. You probably don't do that anymore. You probably had other bad habits where whenever you got angry at your parents, you might have, I don't know, smashed your head against the wall. I know some people who probably did that. Do you do that anymore? No, probably not. Why? Because you outgrew that habit. You probably don't play Minecraft anymore. You probably don't play Fortnite anymore. You probably don't play certain video games anymore. Why? Because you outgrew it. Now, those things are very easy to outgrow, but something like a weed addiction, that's definitely harder to outgrow. So, so this is what I'm going to be talking about right now. What you need to do is you need to outgrow your addiction, and outgrowing your addiction is a bit more complex than outgrowing playing Minecraft, but it's the same idea. And the reason why it's the same idea is because once you outgrow playing Minecraft, it's not like you have an addiction to it. It's not like you're scratching and clawing at the ground thinking like, fuck man, I don't want to play Minecraft today. Oh, I can't play Minecraft today. No, because you simply just don't want to anymore. You're not using willpower to stop playing Minecraft. You just simply don't want to do it anymore, right? So this is exactly what you need to do. Let's say there's a line here. Let's say there's a line, and this is just going to be kind of like a chart. And each chart has a different level. This marker's ass. So this is 0 right here. This is -50. And this is +50. Hold on, let me erase this. Now, 0, -50, +50. This is your level. This is your life level. Let's say your aura level, your life level. -50 would be literally the rock bottom. Let's say rock bottom. And when I say rock bottom, what do I mean by rock bottom? Rock bottom is literally like, let's say everything is going wrong in your life. You're like a meth addict, crack addict. You're just addicted to all these different substances. Everything's going completely wrong. You're broke. Worst case scenario that you could think of. You're probably homeless, etc. Just rock bottom. And then +50 is your dream life. +50 is your dream life. So let's say you're living your dream life. You have all the money in the world, all the money that you want. Your business is thriving. You have your dream wife, your dream girl. You got literally the life you just want to live. You're traveling the world. You're driving your dream car. You could probably think of that. You know what I'm talking about. This is your dream life. This is rock bottom. So right now, the level that you're at, let's say you're at like a level -30. And the reason why you're at a level -30 is because you are a weed addict, but at the same time, you have different bad habits. You have different bad habits. What else? You probably have low emotional maturity and other things. I don't have space to write it down, but you're probably a weed addict. You have different bad habits. You probably have low emotional maturity. You probably aren't really like purpose driven. You don't really have a purpose. You're not really working towards anything. All that different like sort of stuff. So if you're a person at -30, like what I said, you're a weed addict, plus all these different things, like these different negative traits. If you erase weed from the situation right here, you're probably gonna go up a level. Let's say up to -20. You go from -30 to -20, so you go up 10 points. But you only erase the weed factor. You still have all these other different bad habits. You still have all these different negative traits. So you've only went from a -30 to a -20. You only went plus 10 points. And this is the exact reason why people smoke once again, and then they end up, what? Developing a full-blown weed addiction again. This is the exact reason why this stuff happens, because people just erase weed from their life. And then they expect to never smoke again in their life when they're the same exact person. They still have all these negative habits. They still have low emotional maturity. They're still not purpose driven. They're still not on self-improvement. They're still not going to the gym. They're still doing other things that kind of like bring them to a lower level. They haven't changed as a person. They only changed the fact that they stopped smoking weed. Think about it. So if you're at a -20, and the level -30 is where you're at like a weed addiction stage, it's gonna be so easy for you to fall back to a -30. It's gonna be stupidly easy for you to fall back to a -30. Why? Because it's only 10 points above. You're only 10 points above, so what makes you think that you're not gonna fall back to a -30? If you're the same exact person, minus the fact that you stopped quitting weed, of course you'll develop addiction again if you smoke weed again, because you're at the level where you're susceptible to that shit. The more lower you go on the chart, the more susceptible you are to negative things. The more negative things that happen to you, the more susceptible you are to negative things. You're kind of like a magnet. You're kind of like a magnet that attracts negativity. Let's say you're at like a level -50, and let's say you're at complete rock bottom. You're addicted to freaking crack, meth, heroin, all those different drugs. If you just stop your meth addiction, but you're still addicted to crack, heroin, alcohol, and weed, what makes you think you're not gonna freaking develop that meth addiction again? What makes you think you're not gonna develop that crack addiction again? You're at a state, you're at like a negative state where you're so susceptible to these things. You're so susceptible to the entity of weed. What makes you think that you're not gonna develop that addiction again? Just think about that. So if the only thing that has changed in your life is the fact that you stop smoking weed, you are going to 100% of the time start smoking weed again. And I see this so many different times. Like I see this 100% of the people that say that they're going to quit smoking weed. 100% of people I see this with, and this happened to me for 5 years straight. It took me 5 years to realize this. Now, what were to happen if you're to propel yourself up to, let's say, a positive 30? And let's say positive 30, you're at a state where maybe you are on self-improvement, you have your dream body, like you're in the gym, you're working towards your purpose, you're kind of like building up your business, you develop good habits, you start reading books, you start meditating, you start doing all these good habits, you start, I don't know, maybe speaking to a therapist or something like that, start delving into your mind, you start reading books, you start working on your emotional maturity, you start working on your emotional level, you start working on a bunch of different things. If you're at a positive 30, it's gonna be so hard for you to fall back to a negative 30 and develop that weed addiction again. Why? Because you are a completely different person you're a completely different person at positive 30 than you are at negative 30. So if you're to erase weed from this, what's gonna happen? If you're to erase weed from this and then erase all these bad habits and then propel yourself to a positive 30, what do you think is going to happen when you smoke weed again? You are not going to propel down to a negative 30 because of the fact that you are a different person. You are at Frank's level now. You are at Frank's level. And the reason why you're at Frank's level is because you got rid of all these bad habits. You erased all these bad habits from your life. You erased all these negative traits from your life. So you are at a point where it's really, 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 really hard for you to fall back down to negative 30. Very hard for you to fall back down to negative 30. And this is the exact reason why I'm able to smoke and not feel the urge to smoke again within the next day or so. Like I do not get addicted to weed. Like I could smoke and then go a full year without smoking and I'll be completely fine. I could not smoke for the rest of my life and I won't give a fuck. I will not care at all. I really won't care. I have no urge to smoke weed at all. Literally. And the reason why is because I've raised my level to the point where the entity of weed does not have an effect on me. The entity of weed does not have a grasp over me. It's literally like this. This is the perfect example. Let's say you were to start driving a Lamborghini and you were to get used to a Lamborghini. You're driving a Lamborghini for, let's say, 6 months. You feel good. You get used to the speed of the car. You get used to people looking at you, kind of the girls looking at you like, damn, look at that guy's car. You get used to the speed. You get used to the torque, everything. If you drive a Lamborghini for 6 months and then one day your car breaks down and now you're forced to drive like a beat up 2001 Toyota Corolla, what do you think is going to happen? You're probably going to think, oh shit, I don't like this. I don't like driving this beat up car because I'm so used to driving a Lamborghini. I just can't stand driving this car. So what are you going to do? You're going to do everything in your power to go back to the point where you're driving a Lamborghini again. Because you just simply don't want to be in that state where you're driving that 2001 Toyota Corolla that's beat up, rattles every time you drive. The engine's probably smoking. The tires are probably flat. There's rust on it. You don't want to drive that car because you're so used to the speed of driving the Lamborghini. Once you raise your caliber and raise your level, this stuff does not become an issue anymore. You are not susceptible to the entity of weed. You're not seduced by weed anymore. Why? Because you're so used to the higher level, the high caliber, that you feel so good that you don't want to feel like shit again. Because when you stop quitting weed and you actually get to the point where you erase all your bad habits and you're actually purpose driven, you get to the point where you have emotional maturity, you get to the point where you're reading a bunch of books, gaining new knowledge, and actually working on yourself. You don't want to quit. You don't want to smoke weed again because you know what it feels like to be at this bottom level right here. So why would you want to go back to it? And this is what outgrowing your addiction means. This is exactly what it means. You're outgrowing your addiction. Now, actually outgrowing your addiction, that takes a lot of work. Of course it does take work because everything in life takes work. Like obviously it's going to take work to kind of like to get yourself to a positive 30. But the thing is though, is that it's less work than using willpower. And the reason why willpower never fucking works when it comes to quitting weed is because you're gonna be at the point where you have people who are freaking smoking weed in front of you offering the blunt. 100% of the time that's gonna happen unless you cut off all your friends. Is that something that you're gonna do? Probably not. Those are your close friends. Those are your friends that you have an actual genuine connection with, relationships with. So why would you have to cut them off? If you just outgrew weed, you wouldn't have to cut off your friends. I still hang out with all of my stoner friends, but I don't feel the urge to smoke weed again. I don't feel any urge at all to smoke when I'm around them because of the fact that I just simply don't like being high anymore. I know what it feels like to be sober, and I know what it feels like to be a person who's constantly smoking every day who feels high. I know what it feels like to be a person whose dopamine receptors are so fucked up to the point where you can't enjoy anything. I know what it feels like to be a person whose serotonin levels are so fucked up to where you have different mood swings throughout the day. You don't have like a freaking a stable mood. Like when I was smoking weed, I literally couldn't talk to people. Like I was fucked in the head, bro. Like I just became super socially awkward, socially anxious. I know what that stuff feels like. So why would I want to go back to that? Why would I want to develop an addiction again and go back to that? It makes no fucking sense. But the thing is, a lot of people watching this video, they don't know what the other side is like. They do not know what the other side is like. And just quitting weed, yes, it does help bring your level up. But if you just quit weed and you don't get rid of any of these different negative traits at all, then you are going to be susceptible to the entity of weed. That weed is going to be super seductive. Very, very, very seductive. And the reason why it's so seductive is because you still have all these negative traits. For example, let's say you were kind of like down in the dumps, you know, you're very down in the dumps, and then like a dirty crack whore comes up to you and she tries to seduce you. Some people would say yes. Some people would say yes, you know what I'm saying? But a person who has respect for themselves, a person who is, let's say, they're more successful, they kind of have things going on, you know, they're at a positive 30. Do you think they're going to say yes to that? Probably not. Probably not. So this is the thing. It's just a matter of outgrowing your addiction. And outgrowing your addiction, that is a full conversation because there are different things that you can do to outgrow your addiction. But the main place to start with is getting rid of all your negative traits. Now, if you want to learn more about this, click the link in the description below. Like what I said, I'm going to be charging after the first 10 members. So you are very lucky if you're able to get that spot. And what I actually do, and this is actually very interesting, like a lot of people don't know this, but at the end of my program, I actually make people smoke again. At the end of my program, I make people smoke again to show themselves that they don't need weed anymore. At the end of my program, I make people smoke because if you don't, how can I explain this? Like when people smoke, right? And then they say that they're gonna quit smoking weed, and then they smoke once again after they quit smoking weed, they end up developing a full-blown addiction. But with my program, I make people smoke at the end of the program to show themselves that they actually change as a person, to show themselves that they don't need to smoke weed again, to show themselves that they have control over their addiction. It sounds counterintuitive. It really does. It sounds counterintuitive. If there's a program on how to quit smoking weed, then why the fuck are you making me smoke again? But it's to show yourself that you don't need to smoke weed anymore. It's to show yourself that you have full freaking control over your usage. Now, just keep that stuff in mind. But anyways, guys, sorry for my my lacking ability of speaking today. I'm very tired. I'm very, very tired. I kind of have a bit of food poisoning right now too. But anyways, later, guys.